pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everyone. Carl won't be attending tonight, Dave, if he didn't let you know already. Sarah, so one of our alternates will stand in for him. We can have you do it, Bill. Well, he's actually on the, yes.
That building.
And Chris is on it too, so. Thank you. First on the,
Join the meeting.
I always do my spiel, since the people in the Zoom meeting, they don't need to know it, but the rest of us do. We have 2 exits on the rear of the building. There definitely not need capacity in here for as far as people, so that's a good thing. And I think it's about it. All right. Thank you, everybody. The meeting is open. The minutes will be approved tomorrow, or we'll have a vote on that next week. And under new business, we have the Elms Main Street LLC Commercial Subdivision, 41 to 43 Main Street, section block and lot number 88.69-2-31. The applicant proposed 2-lot subdivision of a 0.95 acre parcel of land located at 4143 Main Street. Currently, the lot contains 2 apartment buildings and a laundromat along with parking. The parcel is serviced by municipal water and sewer. Proposed lot will be 0.50 acre and will include the 2 apartment buildings and parking. Proposed lot 2 will be 0.45 acres and will include the laundromat and parking. Lot 1 and 2 granting and reserving an easement for parking and right of way for ingress and egress, and no new improvements on either lot. The applications and maps have been circulated to the board. Patty Brooks, you're here today. Could you talk a little on behalf of the applicant?
Absolutely. I think probably the only one on the board that will recall that this actually got final approval back in May of 2011 is Mr. Hammond. At that point in time, the applicant had some outstanding taxes due and was unable to file the map. So the subdivision became null and void for lack of filing. Back then, a declaration of cross easement for access and parking had been prepared and approved by the Office of Safety and Moriello, and just for the cross parking between the laundromat and the apartment building. The applicant is interested in separating these out so that they can be sold as separate individual parcels, one of them is business and the other obviously commercial real estate.
Seems pretty straightforward, so. Nothing else on that? Anyone from staff?
Yeah, I don't have anything particularly estate parking. I can tell you that the current owner of these buildings has changed the nature of the apartments from one of my greatest nightmares to something much more like what I would hope Town of Lloyd would want in apartments. Jason Capolino has done a remarkable and continues to do remarkable things in this building. So I've talked to Patty about this. I talked to Jay Cap about this. I have no issues, no objections. I did talk to Patty. We're going to do something else in the back there, right, Patty, with the town?
Yeah, I have not gotten approval from the town board to proceed with it yet. But as you can see, the boundary line right now between the municipal parking lot and the laundromat goes through the walkway and the wooden deck of the laundromat. So I have drafted a proposal where there would be a land swap between the town of Lloyd and the laundromat. I've researched the deed to make sure that there was no restriction, that because we knew that there were some restrictions when the parking lot was originally deeded to the town. And basically what that would do is give the northeast corner where the boundary bar and the pine trees in that area there, we would do a land swap so that the town would get that little corner, which will make it give a little bit more space where the new pavilion is going in. More of a crosswalk area there from the parking lot to the pavilion. So hoping to get that in front of the town board at the next workshop meeting, and incorporate it into this application. So we, the subdivision and the lot line revision.
Okay.
I just didn't want to show it on this without the town board's blessing first.
Sure. Kristen, you got anything?
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. I had a few comments here. We're going to be looking for some proposed meets and bounds descriptions for the proposed lots for review by the town attorney and our office. Similarly, the easement agreement should have a meets and bounds description. The town should be contacted for review of any necessary variances. If any, the bulk table ought to be revised to show proposed conditions for both lots 1 and 2. As Patty just mentioned, there are a couple encroachment items at the back of the laundromat that need to be taken care of. We note that the existing freestanding sign for the laundromat for this proposal is going to be on the other property. I don't know where a more appropriate location for that sign is, but I just want to bring that to the board's attention. It's like a little freestanding sign out by the corner of the 30-foot right of way and Main Street, but it's for the laundromat, but it's going to be on someone else's property now. So I don't know how that could best be handled. Regarding utilities, we need to identify where the existing water and sanitary sewer services are. From the map showing that it's not obvious where they are, we just want to make sure that should the subdivision go through, there's not utilities crossing through private property where easements would be needed. We just need to investigate that a little bit further. We would suggest that the parking stalls along the front of the laundromat be extended to 18 foot in length. And the ADA access strips for the handicap parking spaces ought to be widened to 8 foot per New York State building code. And any required signage should be identified and installed.
Will I be getting those in writing, Christian?
Beg pardon?
Will I be getting those comments in writing?
Yes.
Thank you. I stopped writing because I figured I would.
Oh yeah, you'll be getting a letter.
Paul, you have anything?
Nope.
You're muted, but I saw a note. Anyone from the board?
I have a question. Patty, do we know if, just piggybacking on Christian, do we know if any of these buildings share water and sewer?
I don't know what the water and sewer utilities are in them. I'll have to,
Because if
I'll
there's,
probably have to get with the water department. I'm not even sure if Mr. Kepley knows where.
okay, well, as far as the sewer, then probably the water, if they do share, it probably Transportation Corporation would need a date.
If they share, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't think, I think they split and they connect under the municipal lot, but Patty will have to check. But that's that's probably back 10 years. Somebody might have told me that. But actually, back when the previous owner, Pezzo, owned it. So maybe even longer than 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously the laundromat, I was going to say laundromat's not that old, but it was obviously constructed way after the apartment buildings were. So I'm assuming that they were separately supplied, but.
Yeah.
So you need to investigate that, right?
Okay.
That's all I got.
I have a question. Yeah, can you describe, I can pretty much guess, but can you describe, I assume that lot 1 is granting lot 2 an easement for the parking access, right?
That's correct.
And that was written off and approved previously in 2011.
Yes.
Now, are you gonna show that on the map?
Well, that's what the cross-hatched area
Okay.
is. There's a note.
I see a color difference now.
All right, maybe I don't quite understand it. The hash sheet will show it on both lots. So,
It's a cross
that's the
easement
easement.
between the two
okay,
lots.
so they're both allowed, okay, I got it.
Correct.
I got it.
Cross easement for access and
All
parking.
right, all right. So it's not one, it's both lots.
Yep, the cross easement to be used in common between lot
Okay.
number 1 and lot number 2, more fully described in Schedule A. That's right.
That was a big question way back when.
It was, yes.
Anyone else? Okay, Patty, you have a little homework.
Got a little homework.
Thank you.
on the top. It shows what the easement, you don't have to
Oh,
open out that.
sorry.
It's for.
I have a PDF email to me, so I can.
Next on the agenda is the Guardian Self-Storage Commercial Site Plan on 15 North Providence Road, section block and lot number 96.1-1-30. The applicant is seeking to amend the site plan to construct a climate-controlled self-storage building that is approximately 11,675 square feet. We've all received the application and the site plan via email. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant or the applicant itself?
Yes, everyone, my name is Frank Gretel. Good afternoon. I'm the project manager for Guardian Self Storage. I'll be happy to discuss this project with the board. You may recall that about a year and a half ago, we were before you when we received site plan approval to put 2 additional climate controlled storage buildings. As we were building those, we discovered that there was a need for more space. We had a lot of people applying for climate control, so this application has put another building there next to the other 2. One of the things that I wanted to point out is the lighting. In the back of the building, there's a couple of spots where about 0.1 foot candles spills over onto the adjoining property. And the way we thought we would handle that is to put those lights on a motion sensor so that they would stay off at all times, except if a customer wanted to access their unit when it was dark out, and then lights would come on, just stay on for a short period of time, and they go off automatically. We were hoping that that would work well with the board. We try to minimize any light shining on any adjoining property owner.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anyone from staff? Steve Barton?
I don't have anything. I've reviewed this. It complies with the bits and pieces for the gateway zone commercial district. I do think that the climate control is sort of the future of where we're going. Every single storage facility in town of Lloyd has either already constructed them or is going to construct them, and now this one as well. I think this is a good product for the people who live here. And clearly there's a need because people keep filling these things up. So.
Is this the same one that was before us a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, it's added.
Yeah, this is a new building. They just did the 2 other ones just to the east of where they're proposing this one a couple years ago.
Correct.
So one of the main concerns was the last time, I believe they had fencing, they wanted up so that the neighbors couldn't see what was happening there. And then there was a dry spot, I believe, located for RV trailers. Things like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, and then so I do like, Dave Barton again, I do like the idea of the motion censored lights. The only question I would have is in the rear of that property, Frank, will there be a security light there that's always on shining into the site?
We didn't plan on it on the back of the building.
Okay.
On the front, yes, where the light would just shine between the 2 buildings, but we didn't propose anything on the rear of the building, just motion sensor.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of motion sensors and cutoffs, so no, that's good by me.
They could be shielded lights also, basically just straight down, so it's not blowing out to the neighbor's yard.
Yeah, we would agree to shielding those lights. Absolutely. That's a good idea.
Anyone else from staff?
Jerry,
Oh,
retiring. Is this a 24/7 operation or is there times when it's actually closed to the people that are at?
I couldn't make that out. I'm sorry.
Jerry, speak closer, Mike.
Is it 24/7 to have access, the people that are renting, or is it closed at certain hours, like say 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
Yeah, yes, they do. The gates are locked at all times, and each customer has a code where they can access the sliding gate to enter the property. They could go in.
Join the meeting.
They could go in at 9 o'clock at night. They could go in at 6 o'clock in the morning. It is 24-hour access, yes.
joined the meeting.
Hi, Frank, this is Sally Chief. I got a question. Is there any water and sewer hookup to this building?
I'm sorry, I'm not getting the question, sir.
No water and sewer, I assume, correct?
Oh, no, there's no water facilities in these buildings at all. It's just storage.
Oh, sorry. Frank, Dave Barton again, sorry.
Yes.
I'm gonna keep interjecting because, sorry. I'm not saying sorry to the board. How are you climate controlling the building? Are there gonna be air handlers?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
Yeah, they're exterior HVAC units. They're going to be powered by electric. It is not going to be propane. When we put these last two buildings up, we worked with Central Hudson, and then there was a new utility box installed by Central Hudson. So we'll be able to access power from that, and there'll be HVAC units just powered by electric. They're not rooftop.
Yeah, not these loud rooftop things that blow and blow and blow. Yeah, okay.
No, not at all. No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else from staff? Christian?
Yeah, we have a number of comments here. Andy was wondering if this project was close to the rail trail and whether or not that would trigger a type 1 action under seeker.
Nope.
Okay, it's okay. So that's that there. It'd probably be helpful to provide the currently approved plan set just for reference. And to that end, we're wondering if there was ever a SWIP, a stormwater pollution prevention plan, prepared for this site. Does anyone know if one was ever done?
If it was done, it was with the original application. We didn't do one for the amended site plan we did in December of 2020.
Yeah, Christian, just so you know, the site is completely impervious now.
It's all impervious now.
Yeah,
No, was that?
That's all compacted gravel right now. So.
Okay, but was that entire,
Yep.
the entire envisioning site that was all covered under previously approved SWIP?
That's correct.
Okay, we figured it was like about 0.6, 0.7 acre disturbance of what is proposed on the current plans, even though that itself is below the 1 acre threshold. We're wondering aggregate wise whether or not it would trigger the threshold. So okay.
Well, so let's just take that a little further. I do agree that Frank, when we do the building permit stuff for this, we'll do the normal.
Yes.
We'll do the normal, silt fence and everything else just to protect everything all site.
Yes, absolutely. We will do that. We will take erosion control and sediment control plans.
Okay, let's see, proposed elevations. Yeah, again, we confirm that there's no water or sewer service proposed for the new building. I just want some confirmation from fire that the appropriate access is being made available around the building for proper fire protection and fighting. We had some concerns about lighting that we just spoke about. The applicant indicated that they would be willing to shield lights, and that's fine. We would just also suggest that the color temperature of these wall packs be reduced from 5,000 Kelvin to, say, a warmer color to something less glaring. A couple other minor housekeeping comments regarding the lighting plan. Probably contours ought to be provided just to indicate where stormwater runoff is going to be maintained and directed. If that's not on another plan that maybe has a more comprehensive drainage pattern there. We see a number of existing catch basins that are approximate to the south of the proposed building there.
We'll be able to provide that. As a matter of fact, Patty Brooks did a new topo for that area, so we have that information.
Mm-hmm. Show roof leader and downspout locations. Again, another comment regarding stormwater. Probably want to include some construction details, probably asphalt paving, a fencing detail. You're going to be relocating or rerouting the chain link fence around the back of the building. Erosion control, we just talked about that. The proper locations for concrete washouts, stockpile staging area, and that was really is really more bookkeeping comments, but we probably ought to have might need to go to another sheet here for a few details.
Okay.
On that one.
Easy enough to do.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, good. All righty, sir. We've got a little.
All right,
homework to do.
thank you for your time, everybody. We'll prepare some revised plans and submit them to get on the May meeting.
Yeah, and Frank, my office will get you the comments from CPL, Christian's comments in writing if you don't have them already, okay?
Perfect, thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
everybody.
and
Have a good
al-
evening.
Also, Mr. Rettle, now, who from
Yeah.
who from Maury is your PM? Would that be Rich or
Rich
Jay?
Tompkins. Rich Tompkins.
Rich, okay, I can
Yeah.
I can forward my letter to him if that's okay. And
Sure,
I'll give it to yourself as well, so you have it.
Yeah, usually when I get the comment letters, I just shoot them right to Rich anyway, so that's fine. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night. Next on the agenda is Triple H under old business, is Triple H Property Management LLC commercial site plan for 24 Main Street, section block and lot number 88.69-9-2. The applicant is seeking a site plan approval to install a first floor yoga studio with residential living space above. We've seen the plan for the last few meetings, and I guess we're going to talk a little bit more about what you had to go over from the engineers.
My name is Sean Williams, I'm the architect of the project. Here on behalf of my clients, the owners of the building. Just a reminder, they are proposing to install an upper floor apartment that they will inhabit, so it'll be an owner occupied and a live work unit that are installed. So we're here because the upper floor apartment triggers an automatic site review. In terms of actual site changes, the only additions we're making are an ADA ramp on the south side of the building, and proposing a covered parking structure in the back to provide them an upper level living area as an exterior space and covered parking. That we will require a variance with the town, so we will proceed with the design to the point where we can submit that and trade permission. So that's where we are now. We cleared up a lot of the right-of-way easement questions from before, as well as the utilities. The only issue at this time is whether the ADA ramp will infringe upon the neighbor's water supply line, because we're proposing to move it into the setback. If it is actually within the existing setback, it would not conflict. The piping on the ground looks like it's not. Actually, outside of their easement, to move it into their easement, so we're not affected. That's where we are currently.
Okay. Anyone from staff, any comment?
I had nothing. I do see that they look like they mapped out the utility lines that were asked for last time.
Just trying to remember everything that we went through on that one.
Some of the bigger questions were about the in-law suite in the back, the utility lines, the parking structure, which he's indicated is going to need variance. So for setback, I think. So yeah, you know, it's an existing building, so from my perspective, it's sort of an easy one. Although you know, sprinkling is going to be fun.
We had some concerns with the parking too on that.
Yeah, there was a parking lot. If you recall, there was a parking spot over here that was shown in the easement. That's been moved over to the side of the building. So
Sean, are you getting a survey?
I approached Brooks and Brooks about a survey, and they didn't think there was any need. We're not adjusting the site line, property lines in any way. The only question is that access way on the top, and I put right away, we're thinking about 10 feet in water. So what we have now is the deed description from the last bill of sale mapped out. In discussion with Brooks and Brooks, that is an appropriate reference. So if we need to get a full survey, we will. At this point,
It seems kind of up in the air on where these lines were exactly, if I'm not mistaken. So
the previous drawing was showing the lines from the parcel viewer, and so they're now redrawn per the deed description.
the
So,
parcel view is always off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a different map projection.
but that's what we're seeing. So seeing a survey.
well, right now-
would be the same.
Yeah, right now, oops, I'm sorry. Right now, we're seeing a allegedly, a more accurate representation of the parcel.
Yeah, that is the parcel lines as per the deed description of the most recent sale. and previous sale. Dating back to the- Reference of the deed description is on the bottom. of the drawing there.
Yeah, but the building is probably not located that.
It is closely within about an inch.
Because I'd love to see.
An inch on the map or an inch in real life? Okay.
And the existing buildings don't quite follow the property.
Anyone else on the board?
So when everything's done, then you would have like an accurate as-built, and I would assume that we would need, it would be, an accurate survey, right? For the new, whatever new things you're doing.
It's an ADA ramp, yeah, that requires a deed for ramp inside, new survey just for the ramp inside the building. But yes, we would have to start the process.
Well, all right, since we're here, can you just talk about how the vehicle circulation on the site works?
The existing curb cut is on the upper side of the driveway is between there, and there's a retaining wall that curves section. That's right next to the 9/11 memorial, which the owners would like to actually take over as an option, also to maintain it. They've done a lot of work clearing out. We've already beautified the site quite a bit. But on that property line there, it's a 5-foot easement on both sides for access to the apartments to our left, and back rear of the building. It's a pedestrian access way. It's not a vehicular permission. The cars will come in, and currently they park in the pavement area behind, which the entire lot is paved. We hope to remove some of the pavement to save a little more absorption. We are required to have 2 parking spots for the upper level apartment, and the auxiliary unit requires 1. We are in the central business district, so that could be waived if we need to. But we're trying hard to get 2 parking spaces in permanent residents who live there. The auxiliary unit will not have any permanent parking spaces. It's not in the current plans for construction. This problem will go away.
So you drive in over here, but
Driving on the
At the
other
top,
side,
right here.
where it says 3rd parking spot. So there's approximately a 10-foot driveway. 9 feet space for parking.
oh, okay.
So if there's, I'm sorry, Sean, if there's somebody in the third parking spot, the other 2 cars can't get out?
No, they have to go around.
They have to go around, and they can fit out there and then, okay. Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay, yeah, you're right. Absolutely
So
right.
you're saying it's 19 feet width, drive on?
Yep.
What about turning around the building? Would there be access for a fire truck to get around the backside?
There isn't currently-
Oh, I wouldn't want to drive a fire truck in there in a fire situation. You fight it from the street,
What's the width of the easement?
10 feet. But you wouldn't want to park a truck in there.
Even currently, with any car that pulls in.
Park a truck in there?
Really?
The current owner has a Prius, and he sometimes just turn it around, but anything bigger, and they're bigger than backing out.
So they'll be backing out onto the main street.
The only way to avoid that would be to say no parking provided.
Yeah. I just saw somebody do it the other day when I came up through town. Wasn't an issue.
Anyone else from staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple comments here regarding the EAF. That they provided the EAF mapper summary page with the last submission. Now that indicates that there may be historical impacts based upon the location of the project. So what we would suggest the applicant do is just submit a request to OPRHP or SHPO just to make sure that their project is not on the Register of Historic Places, or it's not going to have a negative impact, and that would help just close out that loop regarding that part of the EAF, and the EAF may need to be updated based upon that summary page. And we talked a bit about the survey. It's really the board's call on that. However, we still recommend a boundary survey should be performed just to make sure that the locations of not just the existing structure, but also adjacent structures are nailed down, and make sure that, whatever improvements are done on the piece, that there's no encroachments or no problems that could happen down the road in case someone else calls it into question. The parking stall striping for the third space, we think that should be like a permanent marker. It's kind of called out just as what's it called out here? It's called out striping is intended for demonstration only. It's not intended as part of the project. We recommend that space be striped just to be a visual indicator for other people that it's a parking spot for one vehicle instead of trying to have 2 or 3 vehicles squeezing themselves in there. Regarding prior comment 8, provide more detail on the construction materials once the location has been finalized, and this is referring to the ramp. Should probably show the proposed enclosure on the site plan and provide construction details for the garbage. The emergency generator, there's a note there we would like them to add to the plans that the automatic test cycle that the generators go through needs to be set to a weekday, Monday through Friday during day business hours. And that's just to make sure it doesn't go into a test cycle in the middle of the night and disrupt people in the evening. Regarding utilities, the water and sewer, based upon the anticipated sprinkler requirements, it's just unclear if the existing water service is adequately sized to support a sprinkler system. I think a little bit of analysis needs to be provided, even if it's at a preliminary level. Upsizing of the service may be required based upon the sprinkling requirements. The relocation of the neighbor's water line within the easement wouldn't appear to provide the required 10-foot of horizontal separation between water and sewer services, and that would require some form of mitigation. I'm talking on the south side of the building there. And the ADA ramp should not be permanently located over the neighbor's water line in case they ever have to get at it. We just make a note that there's no lighting shown. I don't know if there was going to be any modifications to lights at either the north or the south entrance. The front entrance on the street that has an awning over it, and if there's a light up in there, it's probably not going to cause a negative impact. But we also ask that any proposed lights be fully shielded and be dark sky compliant. And those are my comments.
Where is the generator going on this building? Don't mind me, but so what is next to that? Are there any apartments or anything there for that exhaust? Concerned with.
Currently, it's the,
Oh, I think it's a consignment shop or something, right? So, but there's no residential people in that corridor, in that little alleyway.
In the back.
in the building back.
Okay, further behind, I got it.
You can install an insulated cover that keep noise down.
Yeah, it's around.
And exhaust, I was concerned with, that's all.
It's a small unit, it's not a big unit.
Anyone else on the board?
Did you get comments from the fire department on? I mean, if there was a
No.
fire to the rear of the building because of the carport, like to see how they would kind of like,
I'll-
to see some comments.
I'll send that out. Yeah, that's fine.
That kind of cuts off circulation to the rear of the building.
Anyone else? We keep sending everyone home with homework. There you go. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yes, yeah, staff too.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Next on the agenda is 180 South Street LLC commercial site plan, 180 South Street, section block and lot number 87.3-5-14. The applicant proposes to construct a 24,196 square foot building addition key onto the west side, or the west axis of the exiting structure along with loading area containing 4 loading docks at 180 South Street. The proposed is allowed in the A zone and requires an area variance, site plan approval, and special use permit. The applicant is proposing to rehabilitate the structure, construct a building addition with site appurtenances, and increase roof height to increase distribution center operations productivity. No change to the remaining principal access points are proposed. No new water or sewer services are proposed. There was updated plan, zoning board resolutions, and zoning board minutes circulated to the board. Anyone from the applicant here to speak?
He's just not,
You're muted, sir.
no, he's not plugged in. Nope,
We don't hear you.
we don't hear you, Brian.
Technical difficulties. I was gonna say,
Yeah, why don't we
maybe
do
you
that?
can take care of that, and we'll go to the next one. All right, thank you.
He's doing.
Cuisine Machine, Inc., site plan review, Route 9W, section block and lot, number 88.1-3-18 in DB zone. Applicant is seeking site plan approval for the site plan to permit a restaurant use of mobile food trucks with takeout service only, an unlisted action, and we have seen the updated plans that were circulated to the board.
So yes, when we were last before the board in February, the board had some suggestions for changing the actual layout of the site. Previously, we had the driveway going through the center with food trucks on either side. We had 5 food trucks in the initial submission. We have reduced the number to 4 and revised the drive-through in the manner that was suggested by the planning board so that there will be no need for any pedestrians to be anywhere within the access drive. All the parking will be on the east side of the access drive, and all of the food trucks will be on the east side of the access drive. So if anybody comes off the highway, which we hope not, at a high rate of speed, we will be able to contain the pedestrians in a safe manner away from them. So before this got referred back for the re-engineering and the lighting and so forth, I wanted to make sure that I had adequately understood what the board was looking for as far as the redesign and be able to proceed with the action.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, cleans up.
So again, the purpose tonight was just to have you relook at it, make sure the redesign was good. I know we have to go back now and redo the engineering and redo the lighting plan before it gets sent to the Ulster County Planning Board, but I wanted to make sure we were heading in the right direction.
Did you ever clarify where the power was coming in from? I know you suggested it was a pole, gonna go in the green.
Yep, so Central Hudson has reviewed the site. Originally, we were proposing the utility to go into the center area, just south of the drainage easement. Central Hudson came out and looked at it and made the suggestion that it go at the south end of the site where we've shown the pole. The benefit of that now is that we'll be able to run all of the electric utilities on the east side of the pavement. There won't be any cutting underneath. So actually, it's ending up as being a much better spot. Also, Christian had brought up at the last meeting with regard to an overhead wire that's running on the east side of the road. And I believe that we did and the overhead wire itself, although the poles are not shown because one is quite a bit south of the site, one's quite a bit north. We did confirm with Central Hudson that there is no electricity on that. We're not exactly sure whether it's Cablevision or Verizon, but that can't be utilized for the electric service at this site. The wires were raised at one point when they were bringing fill into this material, because they obviously were bringing the fill in with dump trucks. And so at that point in time, the utility line, whatever kind of utility it is, the wire was raised up to allow the taller trucks to get in there.
And what was that?
I'm good with this.
Word, good?
Definitely safe.
Yeah, did we ever get DOT comments on line of sight going north?
The DOT had given me just the email that I submitted. We don't have a full design yet, because again, I don't get to that stage until I at least make sure that I'm on the right track with the planning board, especially, with the workflow right now.
Well, it does appear to be a lot safer on the site anyways. We're still worried about the traffic coming in. There's not much you're gonna be able to do until DOT sees it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Chairman, I had a quick question regarding, we did not do an in-depth review on this project, but we did notice there's a DOT easement for drainage that's now shown.
Yeah, that was always there.
Okay, but that's the existing easement, and it stops just short of that catch basin, and it doesn't continue for the remainder of the pipe.
Correct. Originally, DOT had a drainage easement there because it was an open access. It was an open culvert. When the property was filled, they put in the catch basin and extended the culvert pipe. So DOT doesn't necessarily want any responsibility for the maintenance of that portion of it, since it's a private structure that was put in. That's the maintenance of that is the responsibility of the landowner.
Okay, it just, we just still kind of scratch our heads as to why, because if something happens with that, that pipe, let's say the end of the pipe gets plugged, that could flood 9W, and then that potentially could impact the landowner, no, if they're responsible for maintenance.
Well, again, that's why he has to maintain it.
Okay, we were just curious about that, but that's the way it is. We're just want to make sure when we close loop on DOT, we just want to make sure that that's considered by everyone.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that they make some kind of note in it when I discuss it with them next time, so that the board has something for the record.
Okay, but that would be great.
Anyone else in staff? Paul? All right, you're quiet today, Paul.
He's on vacation.
He's here though.
He's a good man.
Yeah, he's here. All right, thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
We're gonna go back to 180 South if he's available.
I am here, Chairman. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Very good.
Hey, I appreciate that. Sorry about the little snafu. I was on the phone audio. I was listening to you all, but wasn't able to finally connect, so I do apologize.
All you.
Okay, I do know you did do an introduction beforehand, so I appreciate that. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Brian Sipperly with Verity Engineering, and we're here tonight to, I guess, refresh the board for a project at 180 South Street. DJ Direct is the applicant. We were once in front of the board in August of 2021. At that time, we generally just introduced the project to the board, received some basic feedback from the planning board as well as the designated engineer, CPL. And at the time, what we were showing the planning board needed some area variances. So it was just that. It was an introduction meeting. You guys gave us some comments and said, see you later. And we've been busy with the Zoning Board of Appeals up until now. And so we are back, and What I would like to do at this meeting is kind of just bring the board quickly back through what we're doing, where we've been, and I guess look for any more comments or feedback from the board, because I really believe the next step that the board and the engineer was looking for was really detailed engineering plans, which up until this point, we didn't want to dig into that as we were wrestling with some entitlements that we needed to implement the development plan. So if I may, board, what we have here is 180 South Street. The property is located on the east side of South Street, also known as County Route 22. It's a 6.5 acre parcel with about 620 feet of frontage on South Street. The site is principally developed with an 87,000 square foot, I'll call it warehouse, but it's truly an amalgam of a number of building additions over the years. The zoning, as you mentioned, is agriculture, with the warehouse being an allowed use. Site topography, we're generally sloping from west to east via sheet flow into the Black Creek. The site vegetation, given the size of the development on the parcel, is minimal. We've got a woodline buffer, woodline riparian buffer along the Black Creek, and some vegetation flanking the north and south property lines. Ecologically speaking, we do have portions of the floodplain that extend onto the parcel, and we do have some wetlands that flank the riparian buffers of the Black Creek, all of which is depicted on the plan. From a site access, as you can see, we've got access points off of South Street at the north and south points of the property. Those will remain unchanged. The utilities that presently serve the site, we've got electric, we've got a water well located on the northeast side, and we have a sanitary absorption field. So we've got on-site treatment, but it's off, I know let's call it, it's off-site treatment of our sanitary flows. So one parcel to the south, Dave, if you want to move your mouse, it's a little bit off the screen, I can see, but the 180 South Street is a dominant tenant, has dominant tenant rights for a portion of those lands called out with meets and bounds of where that absorption field is. That will, up until today's date, remain unchanged. I'll talk about that in a few minutes, as that was a comment from CPL earlier. According to the survey we have, the site is absent any encumbrances. And again, just from an abutter perspective, we've got a single family use to the north. We've got a single family use to the south, and we've got a commercial building to the west, and obviously the golf course flanking us as well. The proposal that the board once saw was a 30,000, excuse me. The proposal that the board once saw was a 30,000 square foot building addition, keyed onto the existing structure in 3 different areas. That, through the zoning process, has been reduced to a little over a 24,000 square foot addition. And I guess, Dave, since you've got the power of the pen, if you want to just point to the loading dock area in the south, that will be one area of an addition. Directly on the east, nope, right back towards the Black Creek. Yep, there's a section over in the middle that's going to be filled in, and then up where Dave was just pointing in the northwest, that was proposed to be squared off at one point, but working with the planning board on trying to reduce the number of variances that were requested, in addition to try to break up the large facade that was really going to happen there with a building. We've landed at having a couple of building jogs. There will be no changes to the utilities that serve the site, commensurate with potentially sanitary. I'll get into that in a little bit. The applicant may consider fire suppression, which obviously would certainly be part of our site plan set if that's going to happen with some type of storage and pressurized system. You know, that's kind of undefined at the moment. Obviously, we're disturbing more than an acre, so we're going to be subject to a SWIP. Obviously, we'll have that in our stormwater report upon submission. I guess some of the other things I was going to describe, that were in front of the board at the last time that were comments that are really a moot point now. We were also asking for a reduction in the number of parking spaces. We have now come back and met the parking. So that's something that the board had a comment on before. You guys weren't too happy about the amount of parking that was proposed. So we've addressed that. The applicant believes that, with the future build out and the efficiency of the new operation, they're going to estimate about 16 office personnel and about 12 warehouse staff. They would like to incorporate a bus, as they believe that they've are shuttling local employees around the area as opposed to the on-site coming and going of the vehicles. Right now at onset, there'll be a one-shift operation. Traffic roughly is about 2,000 vehicles a day on County Route 22. I think for the site, inclusive for the entire 118,000 square feet or so, I think we're going to add generally 39 to the AM and 42 to the PM. Some of that being de minimis to the 2,000 that the road is seeing today. Lighting, of course, as mentioned earlier, any kind of proposed wall pack lighting or new site lighting will all be LED, dark sky compliant with proper cutoff fixtures at the right pole heights. Let's see, that's probably it for a quick update. Like I said, it's been a while since we've seen the board in August. At this point, I'll turn it over to you guys for any questions that you might have.
Staff, any comments?
Yeah, hi, Brian, it's Dave.
Dave.
Right now, you have no plans that I think I've seen for landscaping in any way. Is that correct?
So that is correct. I mean, this is generally a site plan. I think now that the applicant has received the entitlements to move forward with planning process, I do think what you're seeing is more conveying the picture right now in terms of what we're trying to do. But clearly, after this, well, let's put it maybe next Thursday's live meeting, we would like to take any additional comments from town staff, the planning board, and CPL, and generally bake that into us being able to submit a full engineering package commensurate of site grading, utility, landscaping, lighting, construction detail, stormwater, the whole nine.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, that answers more than the question that I had. Good, thanks.
Anyone else? Kristen?
Yes, some general comments here. Also, County DOH needs to be contacted for review of the project for any potential increase in flow to the septic system, which we acknowledge is on the, it's within an easement on the lot to the south. Similarly, any improvements or work that's going to happen within the county right of way needs to be subject to county review and approval. They mentioned they have to, provide a stormwater pollution prevention plan. Question about the wetlands. The survey map that was provided last summer shows a number of wetland flags down there. Is that a state regulated wetland, or is that Army Corps?
It was Army Corps. It was not on the DEC mapper, Christian.
Okay.
They one of the comments from your office was to indicate the data delineation. Brendan Johnson from Johnson Surveying. We're trying to get a hold of him to find out exactly who did the flagging, but it was recently flagged just before the submission last year.
Okay, yeah, and on that, we just make sure that if there's an updated survey or maybe a note on this, just to identify the name and the date of the certified biologist who hung the flags, just to kind of close that loop. Regarding the floodplain. A floodplain development permit is going to be required for any work within the AE flood zone. The base flood elevation for the site should be indicated on the site plan. The line as it's shown, that might be just something that was kind of traced from the FEMA maps, but since you have an actual topo survey, you may want to look at the community panel for that area and take a look, because I think the base flood elevation is right around 410 or something like that, which because the limit of the floodplain is drawn there, it kind of runs uphill, which doesn't really exist in real life. So the line of the floodplain limit may not be what's currently shown on the plans, and we're also concerned about if that above ground propane tank or natural gas tank there at the back of the property, if that's within the flood zone, what precautions are in place to protect that against any flood waters if it's on a raised pad or if there's anti-float, if it's connected to a dead man, something like that. Looking for a little bit of elaboration on the remediation site reference from the EAF and complete that comment section in the EAF. It was apparently this was part of a remediation site. Might just need a little bit of additional information on there to describe that. And as you indicated, you're going to need to provide additional plan sheets, grading, drainage, erosion control, all that. Should identify the ADA accessible entrance into the building. It looks like all the stairs that are shown along the front of the building all have, stairs going up to them. So I don't know where your ADA compliant access is along the front, unless there's going to be changes to what's shown here.
There will be changes. That's a good point. And that's exactly where we are now, Christian, and the board is we're starting to get into the programming now on the building design and those disciplines that are involved, who generally didn't have their oar too far in the water as it related to just generally seeing how we're going to make out with the Zoning Board of Appeals. So Dave, I did see you flash up some renderings earlier. If you want to bring those up, Christian and the board, these were kind of put together haphazardly, I'd say, without taking into account too much of the grading, but it was just to give the ZBA a flavor. This still shows the square building. It doesn't incorporate the jogs. This still shows 5 loading docks, which has been truncated to 4 as a result of getting rid of one of the other area variances. But this gives a flavor of what the applicant would like to do. Dave, can I get a quick screen share on something here? It's disabled on my end. Hold on, I'm still waiting for you.
You should be good, Brian.
Okay. So this is a drawing that the applicant had put together as their, I would just want to give the board a flavor for what this building is. All of these boxes indicate building additions and the year and square footages that they were built. To be honest, guys, the real science project is going to be how these guys are going to actually do this on the inside. I mean, walking on the inside of this building, you feel like you get lost in terms of the finished floor elevations and what's going on. And it worked for people as an amalgam of additions and current uses, but the current owner and what their use is as warehouse, it's very inefficient with different finished floors, the movements of goods and services. I don't know if this board is familiar, but there are people on there are staff on the south side of the building that have to take goods and services outside of the building on the parking lot to the north side to get to a different finished floor. It's a mess. And so they're really trying to create more usable cubic volume inside this building. So it's going to involve demolition, raising the roof. They're getting into that now. So Christian and the board, back to your comment, we're really settling on exactly what are they going to do? Where are the thresholds? I believe if I'm going to take away my sharing and go back to your screen, Dave, if you want again. So Christian, back to where the existing thresholds are now, that's more than likely going to change as a result of the programming between the applicant and those disciplines. They may move the office to the jog on my site plan, which is kind of on the northeast side. But that will clearly all be indicated on the grading plan when it's submitted to the town in your office.
Okay. A couple other comments we had. The drive aisle width along the southerly property line adjacent to the loading docks. Maybe it's possible to consider reducing that width a little bit, just to provide a little bit more green space between that drive aisle and the property line. It looks like there's about 3 feet if I just kind of scale off it in the PDF. And that's just to maybe prevent encroachment on the adjacent property. And also along that southerly line, the site survey showed what appeared to be a concrete pad that goes onto the adjacent property to the south. And it looks like that's going to be removed as part of this proposed site work. So we're probably going to need to have some written approval or authorization from the neighboring property owner authorizing that work, and somehow indicate that removal on the plans, probably on your demolition plan.
Duly noted. And the restoration, of course, obviously.
Yep. There's a parking island between the ADA spaces along Route 22. It's right in between those 3 ADA spaces. The island, we think that it'd be a good idea to lengthen that a little bit, just to kind of bring it out to the edge of the striping, because it almost looks like it would be another parking space if someone were to go in there.
Understood. Yeah, if we can grab additional green space right through the design process, I think it's a great comment. We'll certainly take advantage of anything we can do like that as well.
Right. And regarding Town Code 100-29, landscaping to be provided to make sure all parking spaces are within 40 foot of a shade tree, so that might help you out there. I think there's a tree indicated in that little island, but it might help you for some of the other spaces. Signage and striping should be provided to indicate one-way circulation where applicable throughout the site. The front drive aisle there along the highway probably should be reduced in width to about 20 feet, just to discourage two-way traffic from happening there. Also, on the south side of the proposed building, there looks like the rectangular box. It was identified as a concrete space that was off the building. I don't know if that was a ramp or something else, where it looks like the backup movement of one of those trailers is going to go right through that. I don't know if that was a parking space, or is that going to hinder the movement there?
No, we got to work out some grades. Good eye, Christian.
Okay.
That's actually a ramp from the parking lot, the elevation, bridging about 8 inches to get into the finished floor of the building. That's the only at grade entrance on that whole side of the building at that finished floor. Okay. So, and believe it or not, just to the west of that concrete protrusion is their pump station.
Yeah, that was going to be another comment there, because if you're going to be adjusting the grades there, you may want to take a look at that. I don't know how deep that pump station is. If that's just a couple inches down, you might need to, take a look there and modify your grading accordingly.
We, along with the comment, so believe it or not, the owner didn't get anything regarding the septic design and the transfer of the sale. Our first FOIL request with the county on the system came back negative, so we were working with them on some revised language. I'm hoping somebody finds something about the septic system, but to your point, obviously, when we get into the flows and does the employee count, does the system currently meet it? I think at the same time, we're going to be looking at, is that structure traffic rated? It was in the grass. I mean, for as much as the applicant doesn't want to peel back the layers of the onion, there are certainly going to be some domino effects here of things that they thought they might not had to deal with, but they may, and that's all going to be in the scope.
Right. The area that appears to be reserved on the survey for that probably that fill pad, that it's a very, very large fill pad. I'm assuming it was designed with a certain flow in mind for some past use, but again, whatever that use was or when that was, it's a question mark, but that's something that's obviously going to be subject to county review and approval.
Understood.
Regarding the SWIP there, we noticed that the well to the north of the building is like within an area that's being identified as a stormwater management area. So I don't know if that's going to be a good spot for stormwater management, where they need to look at some different options there. Or if there's different wells, if there's multiple wells serving the building, I don't know. I just happen to see that there.
It isn't our reserve stormwater management area. The contours there today, Christian, it's a depression that acts like it. And I do agree with you that the water well is on the slope of that as well. So clearly any keep outs or encroachments to sensitive items like that will be looked at in design.
Yeah, so certainly the health department is going to take a look at that. Let's see the existing well. And erosion control plan, the rest of it is all, fairly, generic, straightforward, things. We'll be looking for the various details.
Yep.
And that's the extent of our comments until we get to revised plans and additional reports.
Okay.
Did you get any recommendations from the county yet on this?
Chair, was that to me or was
Yeah,
that to
I'm
David?
sorry, I apologize, yeah.
David, did you say yes, you've received county feedback? You referred the project to them?
We referred it for ZBA.
Oh, that's what it was for.
Yeah, that's fine. It'll go again for this.
I was wondering if we've gotten any, what did we get back from them, even for the ZBA?
There was no required modifications.
I don't even remember, I knew it came out.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any questions?
I have some. Is the building currently sprinkled? Right,
Is the building currently what?
sprinkler.
No, it is not.
Is there any plans, because you're gonna be storage, and you're using, you're asking for a special use permit, I'd like to see that no hazardous materials are stored on site in the warehouse? Is that possible?
So I mentioned that early on in some initial programming, the design team was talking about, not us, but the internal folks were talking about potentially having fire suppression. So a lot of codes and what they're going to store are going to be kicked off in this process. I don't have an answer for you at this juncture, but I will certainly bring one back as the definition of construction type, occupancy, what's going to be stored in there, what gets triggered, and how these guys are going to deal with it. I'll bring that update back to the board as this team coalesces around those answers. Is that fair?
And because you're gonna go through a renovation, is it possible to put up a hookup for a tanker truck in case there is a fire?
Like an FTC connection?
Yes.
Yep. I'm taking these notes down as we coordinate with the ARC and MEP team.
So that's all I got.
Sal?
Yeah, Brian, Sal Kajiti. When we bring the plan back, I'd like it to show where the existing building outline is, where the proposed are. At least indicate it, if not to mention it. I think it screws up.
Yeah, duly noted. I think, as Christian mentioned, we'll have an existing condition and removals plan that will help take away the one exhibit trying to fit all and convey a message. So, point taken. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, exactly. The existing building, what the proposed addition is, differentiated on the plan. I assume, a lot of this is just as you're going to now develop the design. So some of my comments will deal with that. So I'll just wait for the next go around.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that's kind of what we really wanted to obtain out of this call was, a refresh to the board and any comments that would affect us as we start to engineer the site. So I do appreciate that.
Anyone else?
Now, that building there, I remember from the road, there's all different roof heights because of so clarification, you said you're gonna be adding to that. Do you know like what the roof height's gonna be, or because of the warehouse, are you going extremely high, or it's all one level, and you basically making it all one level there?
I don't think I know.
Oh, not yet?
Yeah, I think they're still gonna work it out.
We're going to work it out. I think there's a lot to do with, I hate to say it, but there may be some tail wagging the dog given some of the existing installations and how they're gonna do this. But we will come back. It won't be any higher than what's allowed in the zone. I think the whole goal would be to get a uniform roof height, something more aesthetically pleasing, newer asset class, new clad on the building, really spruce the site up, and as well as, all of that comes along with the ride of really what they want to do on the inside as well.
Anyone else? Cool. All right. Okay, looking forward to seeing you again.
Well, thank you, Chairman. board members, good seeing you as well, and thank you for the time. See you next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Highland Estates LLC site plan review, 9W section block and lot number 96.9-1-35.210 in the Highway Business District on 7.84 acres. Applicant desires site plan for mixed-use building with 16,000 square foot first floor retail space, including 3,000 to 4,000 square feet gas station facility with 4 pump islands and the second floor residential housing. The applicant also desires a second building with professional offices of 9,600 square feet of office space, 2-story on a 4,800 square foot footprint. Parking will be shared between the 2 buildings. Been on this in action and the plans were circulated to the board. Patty, you're up again.
Good evening. I actually have other maps I'm gonna pass out just illustratively. So the last time we were before the board had several items that they wanted us to address. One of them was pushing the parking, kind of making everything in line with what was already there for former Rite Aid, now Walgreens. To move the parking spaces from right along the highway to the north a little bit. Am I allowed to move this?
Sure, just remember to speak into it.
So basically, we tried to line up the parking lot. We put additional green space in the front, and we have come back again with the hotel. You know, we were here, then we went away because of the height restrictions. The applicant really feels that there's a need in the community for the hotel. So we would like to go back and work with either the town board or the zoning board, whatever is required in order to be able to put up a 4-story hotel so that we could have a pool and appropriate amenities on the first level and guest rooms on the other 3 floors. One of the reasons for this plan is to illustrate where the existing stormwater pond is, to show the size and proximity between the Walgreens and the proposed hotel, and the distance away from the nearest residential structure. This is a wooded federal wetland separating the 2, which provides about a 450-foot buffer. And obviously additional plantings could be put in place. We also added the sidewalk along Route 9W as has been requested by the board. So I think those are the major changes. I know that this board can't approve this or continue a review with a proposed building height that is above the requirements. And I guess I'm looking for some guidance and input as far as your initial reaction to the proposal, and then suggestions on whether or not we should be speaking with the town board and zoning board, perhaps both of them.
Chad?
Thanks, Ken. You're a hell of a buddy. So at the last tri-board meeting, there was some discussion about changing building heights. Tri-board meeting, and I don't know that the board was comfortable with Highway Business District, which is what this was in, because of the other properties along the other side of the road, which runs south, are all surrounded by residential uses. Nevertheless, numbers were tossed around at that meeting. If I was to offer the applicant advice, I would certainly, because you guys can't do anything more with this, so I would say apply to the ZBA immediately, if that's the intent, and then have discussions with the town board while that is under review.
They gotta come with water and sewer too.
They got to do a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, water, sewer. In fact, I don't know, I think frankly, you of all people will know, this applicant, hasn't played nice in the sandbox with Stewart's, related to the sewer on that side, so, it's a little frustrating for me, considering how hard we worked on Stewart's. You know, we thought we had it sorted out, and then because of some inaccuracies, as you know, Franco, with what we knew about where the sewer was there, this particular applicant, was asked to do some things, and that sort of didn't play out very well for Stewart, and I think therefore the town. So, Patty and I have had that conversation. I know she's talked to her client, so we'll see what happens going forward. As I say, ZBA for sure before we can do anything else, and then town board, and maybe offline to see where the town board members are, and then see what they want to do with it.
Anyone else?
I do. I'm sorry.
You know, anyway, for something for something very high, I think it's hard to buffer it here in this particular spot. Up against the Rite Aid driveway, you're up against a drainage pond and a residential street.
Can they swap, Sal, do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's more space here to work with. And also being, 66 feet wide and very tall, it's gonna emphasize the tall nature of the building. Behind Rite Aid. I don't know, it's maybe not a great look there. So here, to the closer to 9W, there is room to buffer that height.
Because you could set it back.
Yeah, you can have, rows of trees in front of it and things to sort of bring it down.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons also that it fits back there is it's about 10 feet lower than Route 9W. So, and again, it shows up pretty clearly in the ortho digital, the size and of the Walgreens as opposed to the size of the hotel. That's why we kind of showed it on the ortho for a comparative. So if the Walgreens is at 40 or 35-foot height, and we put in a building at a 50-foot height, and you have already a 10-foot difference, kind of pulls that scale away from it. But your point is well taken, and I'm sure the applicant will have to pull together some visuals to be able to illustrate that to all the boards.
And actually, Patty, you'll need like some elevations anyway for the ZBA, for them to get a sense of impact, right? So
Yeah.
That would probably help this board, and certainly me, for sure.
And me.
Hampton Inn and New Paltz is over 3 stories.
And you got an office building, do we know? Well, we probably don't have any potential flows, right? So we'd have fixture counts, we would go by. Here's the problem we got. Right now, we just went through this whole thing with the Bridgeview Pump Station, and all this will go to Bridgeview Pump Station. So there's probably gonna be, I'm thinking a 4-story hotel, how many rooms you looking at?
We were looking at 60 rooms.
60 rooms and 110 gallons per day. And how many apartments?
There are 20 apartments.
And office space.
16,000 square foot plus.
How many
Yeah.
offices?
I have total retail
Oh.
space is 16,000 square feet, and office is 9,600 square feet.
You look at 6,600 gallons per day, and that doesn't include peak. For a hotel, 20 apartments, you said?
Mhm.
How many bedrooms?
The apartments are 1 bedroom, 1.5 spaces for 1 bedroom, 20 for an apartment.
So another 20. You're looking at 2,200 gallons per day.
Bridgeview pump station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then looks like you got the hotel apartments.
The office space?
Office space, yeah, because depending on the number of offices you have, each office will have its own, it's gonna have shared bathrooms in the hallway.
Again, they haven't gotten to that level of design because we haven't,
And then you would have an indoor pool,
that was the proposal for the
so then
hotel.
you're gonna end up with backwashing in the sewers, so we have to take into account of buying the pool, how many times backwashes per day.
Usually they have like a breakfast, not a full restaurant, but they'll have a kitchen.
But with just the hotel and the 20 apartments, you're looking at 8,800. Christian, help me out, you're 8,800 times 4, right? For your peak?
Yeah,
Yeah.
usually for a small sample size like this, 4.0 for your peak.
Yeah, so you're looking at your peak flow, you're looking at 35,200 gallons per day, and that doesn't include the office building. Well, the retail space is probably gonna be just 2 bathrooms, so
And
that's
there's
not a
a
lot.
capacity issue at the pump station, I presume.
Yes, there it is. So that's about what we're looking at, right, Christian?
Yeah, we'll like to get an actual written breakdown of all the flows and take a look at that and just make sure those work. Yeah, a 4.0 peaking factor is probably good, and we just have to take a look at that because this is going to be also subject to review of Ulster County DOH too.
Yeah, but knowing that there's an issue that we should
Come to water sewer like soon.
come to the water and sewer soon and have a conversation about what the issues are and what
Next month.
potential solutions are.
Can you come in May?
Yeah, what's the date again?
The date will be
Where's third?
May 5th, 4 o'clock.
Okay.
I'll put you on the schedule. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to talk about this.
Yeah, obviously that's something we'd rather know sooner rather than later.
I think what we should do is we should talk about this in water sewer before you actually go to the town board.
Well, yeah, I
It
would
might
say,
not fly.
yeah, I would say the bits and pieces, and Patty and I have had this conversation, the bits and pieces to get it in place before you even apply to the ZBA. I mean, I guess you could apply, and if they say no, then really the question for me is how much will the applicant, your client, Patty, want to put, at risk in terms of development costs, if there are going to be, these tripping hazards as they go forward. I mean, ZBA is not, no question, and she knows this, ZBA is not going to be an easy reach. At 50 feet, Patty, is that what we're guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a good poke. So we'll see.
I had a few comments at this level if
Sure, go ahead.
we're ready. Sure. It's been brought to our attention that the Highland Fire Department indicated that the existing slope off the southerly 9W entrance is causing some clearance issues with their vehicles. You probably want to get some feedback from them, but they say that they're grinding a little bit as they're trying to come in off a 9W on the
High side?
coming north.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're talking about, Kristen.
Yep.
When that was constructed that way,
Right. Yeah. I don't know exactly why it wasn't part of the review when that was done. That's actually part of DOT's. That's within the DOT's purview, but they are saying that they're having issues there. So that's going to be something we're going to take a look at. Again, we have some easements here. It's going to require a SWIP. The SWIP should include the existing stormwater features located on the lot that are utilized by the adjacent commercial property. Going to do your new soil.
yeah, there is, just so that you know, Kristen, the SWIP is gonna have to be updated, but there was a SWIP done originally as part of an ultimate development plan here. And then there also is a declaration of covenants and restrictions between the two parcels and the entire property, the entire 9-point-something acres, including Walgreens and this site, has a grant of water and sewer easement that was granted to the town of Lloyd back in 2009.
Okay. Now that overall SWIP, did that include, was that envisioning the gas station that's now possibly proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't including it as a gas station, footprint wise, though, it's very similar to what's here now. At that point in time, I believe there was a large restaurant and a larger retail space than we're proposing now, and a potential bank.
Yeah, we just may make a general statement that, gas stations are considered hotspots by DEC and infiltration practices wouldn't be appropriate for that. And then the remainder of our comments is, we know we need to get additional details, going through the site plan process. We know we'll get them. And let's see, landscaping. Oh yeah, the old septic system needs to be abandoned to health department standards. The remainder note here, erosion sediment control plan, and the rest of it's information we've already gone over.
Right, the normal requirements for a site plan.
Yep, the normal stuff.
Does anybody else know any secrets about this property? I should know.
Indian burial ground.
Oh, boy.
Well, I don't know, when you go on the DEC website, they're worried about the surgeon.
Yes,
Oh.
Just to let you know.
I,
Christina Custom is building ladders for them now. Get up out of the river.
Anyone else?
So in terms of the process, this is an application for us, right? But it doesn't include the hotel.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, right now, we're back for conceptual discussion. We did make a formal application, so that we could have an escrow account and move forward with the board in the proper fashion, because I didn't want to just keep coming in front of you informationally. But we realized that we have some work to do, and we're looking for some initial comments, and obviously Franco's got one that's going to be a hurdle that we need to get over. So I think May 5th, hopefully we'll find out some more information about that and figure out the direction we need to go in.
it's a big one.
Anyone else? No? No?
One more time. Yeah. See you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, next on the agenda is the public hearing for Frank Mazzella, special use permit for timber harvest, 18 Trinity Boulevard, section block and lot number 88.1-8-3. I believe the applicant is here just to update the board today. If you mind coming up.
Okay, my name is Mike Orno, logging contractor. And last time I was here, we needed to, I had to speak with the DEC about the wetlands and wildlife. So that's all been addressed. I got an email from the DEC and I did forward it to the town. I don't know if you have copies of it. If not, I made copies. If you need to read it. And another one. I mean, you created this in summary because you're not building a new road, bringing in so material, grade, cutting timber or vegetation in the wetland or wetland adjacent area, you do not need a freshwater wetland permit. And, I made got a map here from the DEC that shows where the wetland is in relation to, Frank Mazzella's property, and then I just hand posted on something that you can read easier. The DEC map is kind of dark. And the only endangered species is the Atlantic sturgeon, and that's, that's not of any.
Have you seen any yet?
Not yet, no.
They didn't address that, so your plan is to start after November 1st.
No, there was nothing came up in wildlife about the bats or the brown bat or the,
Indiana long.
northern cricket frog as well,
Franco, the closest vernacular for the Indiana bat is down in Goshen. The closest they've been found, but
Yeah, because I went to wildlife and then freshwater wetlands.
Yeah, we're good.
I was surprised because I did some work over on Lily Lake Road and
Yep.
northern cricket frog.
well, cricket frog's a real deal, but that's more mountainous, wet areas. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a sample of the Indian bat locally, so still gotta check it. But it looks like the DEC is good.
yeah. And as I said, I made copies. I don't know if you got your email, but if you want, I've got 4 copies here. I can give to you.
Yeah, the only thing I saw that they didn't address, like they said, was bats.
Well, they didn't put it, wildlife didn't put it in writing, but they just came back with no endangered species. So here's 4 copies for the board.
I'll take this wrong.
There's, just to show you, there's the DEC map, okay, that's their wetlands map. You know, it's hard to see. Yeah, and then I just made my own, because that's hard to read. They're right there, the wetlands, the red, so I.
Very body job.
Yeah.
Very body job.
There's, the other, thing was there's a non-classified stream right by the landing area. You know, and we're gonna put a bridge over that, you know, it's only about 3 feet wide, so we're gonna put a portable bridge over it. He addressed that in his, email to you.
That's only gonna be a temporary bridge?
Temporary, yeah. That we take it out at the end of the job.
As you just put I-beams, right?
Well, these are, I got one bridge that are real wide I-beams, and then the other bridge is, 5x7 oak. You know, it comes in two 5-foot sections, you know, so you can't lift the whole thing together, you know, so we put it in 2 sections. Drive over it, and then the wood is skidded over the bridge, you know, so very little impact for the stream. But if the stream's not classified, but you still have to take measures to protect it, even if it's not classified.
And then your tracking pad.
Yeah, landing, that's a little square box says L, or just a L on it, that's the landing area where the logs the trees would be skidded to, and then the log truck will sit on the driveway and load them, you know.
So this is pavement up here?
On the driveway, yeah. This is pavement right here.
Okay, so it's pavement all the way in, okay.
Path and the landing area is gonna be right there. The log truck will just a 36-foot truck will sit right there. The trees will be right in that area where it says L.
Okay.
Low traffic, we only do maybe 3-4 loads a week.
Tracking what,
Make a motion to move the public hearing for, what's the date? What was the date, Chief? No, next, it would have. to-
Oh, we said it.
Oh, we just
We said it because we knew what DEC was.
Oh, that's what we were now. Sorry, my mind.
Thank God for Sarah for it.
Thank you, sir.
we're the weight goal.
So I'll see you next
Next week?
Next Thursday.
Okay, great, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so we have some administrative business. The villages, the applicant is requesting a modification of conditions that need to be completed prior to the chair signing the site plan. The applicant is also requesting an extension of the subdivision approvals.
You did that already.
That was my mistake.
Okay, you know that, now you know I'm confused sometimes. Thanks for bailing me out when you need to. Okay.
He's just messing.
That was a month ago.
Good evening, my name is John First, attorney for the applicant. Kelly Lible is on via Zoom. She's
Yes,
got-
good evening, everyone. Thank you.
She's got a nice presentation that she is going to pull up on the screen. I have handouts if anybody wants for presentation.
And if I could be able to share the screen, I'm not sure if I can share it or not. Oh, there we
Dave doesn't like sharing.
Yeah.
go. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you. I'm sorry I'm not there tonight. We're trying to do 2 board meetings at the same time, so I appreciate being able to come on virtually. We just really wanted to take some time and give you an update as to the status of the project. And I honestly, I'm a big communicator. So I think, as Dave can assert, I think it may be a good idea for us to perhaps monthly just send you a project update so that everyone in the town, the planning board, et cetera, is aware of what's going on at the site. I think it's a small, close-knit community, and I think it's fair that everyone knows the status of the project. And so some of the things I just want to go through tonight quickly are the 2 clarifications and amendments that we're talking about with respect to the site plan resolution. just some status updates as to the town board actions and some other approvals that are ongoing. The status of the DOT approval. I know we have Ken Worsted remotely. I think he's driving on the phone. And then just some updated future, what our expectations are and our anticipated sequencing of the construction. So the first, and I'll be brief. I know we're at the end of the meeting here, so I'll try to be brief. The first thing that we wanted to go over is the project received site plan and special permit approval, if you recall, back in September of 2021. And this is just a snapshot of the conditions of approval. And the first one that I just wanted to focus on was letters F as in Frank and G as in giraffe. And the statement on the resolution indicates that we need approval from New York State Department of Transportation as a condition of approval. And so what we're asking is for a clarification of those two items, G and F. And we have provided you with a copy of the conditional approval that we had received from New York State DOT. And what we're seeking tonight is for the board to accept, just for signature of the plans, the conditional approval that we provided to you. We're not seeking building permits. We're not asking to seek building permits until after we receive the DOT approval, but simply just to get the plan signed to allow the construction of some utilities. So that's the first thing that we're asking for. The second clarification is that we are asking that we can be permitted to commence the construction of the utilities on the site. So no foundations, no buildings, just the utilities once the site plan is signed. And so just to kind of drill down on what we're talking about on the utilities. So we're talking about water, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. So we would ask, there's 3 different entities that are involved in the installation of the utilities. So the first is the town building inspector, Dave Barton. So we would request a permit after the developer's agreement is approved to commence the construction of the on-site water, sewer, storm. And again, all of these are private laterals on the site. The Ulster County Department of Health is obviously one of the agencies that's involved in the approval of the utilities for water and sanitary sewer. We did just get the approval for the water service, which I put up on the screen, and we will forward to the town, but we just got this, I think it was yesterday. And so all of the water is already approved. The sewer is forthcoming, and I mean sewer, sanitary sewer. The other entity that's involved in the installation of the utilities is New York State DOT. And they're involved only for the physical connections to the lateral or to the mains that are in the right of way, in the DOT right of way. And that includes water, sewer, and storm. We are submitting a permit to New York State DOT next week. And this is just simply the utility permit. It's a abbreviated permit process. Again, just for work in the right of way. I know Ken's on the phone, but I spoke to his office earlier tonight, and they had anticipated that once we submit, it's usually a 3-week, maybe a 4-week process. Don't hold us to it, but that's kind of the time frame to get the utility permits from New York State DOT. Just some other status updates. And again, I'm happy to do this on a monthly basis, either at the planning board meeting or just to send the town a summary email. One of the approvals that this project required was the formation of a developer's agreement. And the town has worked very, very diligently, both attorneys, engineers, Dave, in putting together a developer's agreement. And I believe that it's in its final form or near final form. It was anticipated that we would talk about it last night, but I think there's some final tweaks that needed to be discussed. And so we're hoping that that developer's agreement is reviewed and hopefully approved at the May 4th town board meeting. The Ulster County Department of Health approval, I think I just went over with you. We've got the water approval is completed and the sewer is near completed. The water district extension, which is under the purview of the town board. It's our understanding that the town board should act after the developer's agreement is finalized. So probably somewhere in May, notwithstanding some other issues, that perhaps we don't know about at this time. Again, status updates. So this is just an update as far as the DOT approval for all of the work. So this is the traffic signal, the improvements on the road, the sidewalks, etc. This schedule was provided to you a few months ago, and we're actually either at or even possibly ahead of schedule with our permits. So DOT and Ken Worsted's office had to receive the updated survey info, which they got. That was an extensive survey of all of the information on 9W, including utilities. They finished their detailed design in December. They commenced the final DOT review for the permitting process. And so that was really expected to be March through May. According to Ken's office, they had received what we believe are the final comments from DOT, and his office has prepared all of the responses to those comments, and they're submitting final plans next week. So we are a little ahead of schedule on that. We're hoping that that's the final review by DOT. And then at that point, what DOT sends back is your plans are approved, you submit your Perm 33 form and the bond and so forth at that point.
And I'll just, if I could interject, Kelly, you might be one bullet ahead. We are submitting the plans, but I don't believe they'll be final plans yet.
Okay, good. Thank you
the
for
schedule here. I know you were trying to call the office and we had a little trouble finding someone who was in the office that had worked on this. So I appreciate the hybrid meeting because I'm attending from Huntsville, Alabama right now. But the general process here is correct. And we have reached out to John Riley of the Kingston office. I believe he intends to process the utility work permit through his office rather than go to Poughkeepsie. And he's been looking at this. He drives by the site pretty regularly. So I think we're in good hands with him. And obviously, when we submit these plans, we'll submit them to the town as well. We're going through and doing our internal review right now and our client review. And when we submit these to DOT, we'll share them with the town as well.
Excellent. And Ken, are you, just to make sure that I was correct in the summation of the utility permit? So I believe we're anticipating submitting next week. We're just waiting for the construction estimate, and then 3 to 4 weeks generally with a utility permit in the right of way.
Correct. Yeah, we're
Okay.
coordinating with the contractor to make sure we're not pulling 2 permits. We're just pulling 1, and trying to get that estimated work within the right of way, because DOT will want to know that for the bonding and insurances, et cetera. There are not only utility connections, laterals, but there's also some substantial work up and down north and south on 9W within the right of way. So
yep.
They'll have to look at all those details, make sure they're satisfied. And if there's any updates to the plans, we'll coordinate with LRC on that, get those updated, processed and put back to DOT for issuance of that utility permit.
Thank you. So the last discussion is really just sort of looking forward, and we think that it's fair to have discussions and again, ongoing communication with the town as to our plans for the sequencing of the construction of the actual project. So we anticipate building the project in 2 sections, and I think we talked to the planning board about this at the end of the review process, with the upper building being installed and constructed first, and then the lower building being installed after that. We are hoping to seek a building permit for the upper building once we've satisfied all the conditions for the site plan resolution, including the receipt of the DOT permit. And in this upper portion are the assisted living units, dining room, common room. None of these uses require New York State Department of Health approval. So we're hoping to perhaps in the fall, maybe the late fall, submit permits to the town for the permit for that portion of the building. And what I did is just showed you, and we're happy to share these floor plans, but these are our floor plans at the moment for the different sections of the building. And this is just a blow up of those plans. And so it's our expectation then that we would apply for the building permit for the lower portion of the building once we seek the Department of Health, New York State Department of Health approval for those uses. And those uses include the memory care, the adult home, and the adult daycare, all of which require New York State approval. And these are just again, the initial floor plans. The purple on the floor plans is the memory care. The blue is the adult daycare the adult home, and then the yellow portions are the adult daycare. And then this is again, just a blow up of the buildings. And we're happy to share these floor plans, with the town if you'd like to see those. So that's really the summation of what we're looking for tonight. Again, just the clarifications on the approval. And if the town does desire that we give you a monthly update, the first of every month, we're happy to do that. Just let us know how you'd like us to communicate with that.
So just to emphasize, so we're not looking to build any buildings prior to the final New York State DOT. Just want to clarify that. So it's clear. We are looking to install utilities until after the site plan.
That's been come across my desk a few emails that they have many concerns about how that.
And we had mentioned it originally, your concerns. We understand. But we would like to get moving on the utilities. There's no harm in that. Everything is utility.
I think we all pretty much agreed to that at the last meeting. If I'm not mistaken. Paul, if you could guide us into the right direction on that. You're muted.
Yep. Yeah, so I think what the staff had recommended, and I think the board was comfortable with, was amending the approval to basically allow the conceptual DOT approval to be sufficient for the signing of the site plan. So that's one amendment that we can draft to the approval resolution. The other question was this whole idea of whether we could issue a building permit prior to receiving final state approvals from DOT and DOH. And I think there was some level, as you just suggested, of comfort among board members in allowing the utilities to go forward, so long as there's, as Kelly was describing, they have to get approvals from DOH or county DOH and from the state DOT for those anyway. So that's another amendment that we could make to the approval resolution for the board's consideration next week. The third condition is really the tougher one, and for the board really hadn't taken a position on it, but Kelly describes the desire to build the building, the entire facility, in 2 phases, and yet the approval resolution says that no building permits are to be issued until all agency approvals are obtained. And that would include not only the DOT approval, a final approval from DOT, which it sounds like they're on track to obtain, but also the more challenging approval from DOH, which I think the timing of that is not certain, which is why they're suggesting, okay, let us build that portion of the facility that does not require DOH approval, without having that DOH permit in hand. And then once we get the DOH permit in hand, we'll build the other portion of the building. So that's the other conversation that I think the board, you can talk more about tonight, and provide direction to staff, or we can do some additional homework and have a full conversation about that next week or next week. I think the immediate need, if I understand it correctly, is to get beyond the signing of the site plans and to get the utility building permits in place. I think they'd like to also resolve the issue of phase construction as well. But again, that's subject to the board's further deliberation.
Would someone like to make a motion to accept, or at least to draw up conditions to the resolutions that we have for utility, permitting the utility vehicle?
What if there's consensus on that at the workshop here, we'll make revise the approval for next week's meeting, so you can do that in a regular meeting.
We can, I just, to advance further, that's why I was wondering if you wanted the answer tonight for that draft to go in for, we started up for next week. That's where I was going with it, but that's fine. We can wait.
I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, I think so. We're good. We'll talk about it. I know I think it was last month, we had general conversation and we were pretty much in line with agreeing to it, but we'll have more conversation on it. We'll wait till next week.
Yeah, so there's two items that we'd like to get addressed next week. Again, allowing the conceptual approval from the New York State DOT to act as the mechanism to allow the signature of the final site plan. And then the next impending or more important issue is allowing the installation of utilities after the final site plan is signed, but before the issue of the building permit. Those are the two issues that we really kind of like to get resolved next week. The other construction phasing issue, we can always continue that discussion till next month.
Okay.
So, Kelly, I got a question for you. So basically.
You gotta speak in the mic, Franklin. She can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Kelly?
Yes, I can.
So pretty much as far as putting in the utilities, you'll be putting in the utilities on the property to the DOT right away, because you don't have the DOT permit to go down DOT right away, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Scott, so if you'd like, I can do a draft approval resolution for those amendments to the site plan approval if the board is so inclined for next week.
Sure, and we'll discuss it more in a little bit, so we all have a general understanding and sure, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, we'll do that.
This what started this, the timeline running out. Is that how this, the fear of the timeline of the approval running out?
No, it's really just a matter of trying to line up the contractor, keep him on site is one of the reasons. It's also, we have been delayed, we're waiting on the developer's agreement for a few months. And, I know there's a lot of work and due diligence going into that, but that is kind of following and stuff. So, the idea is to, just try to keep things moving forward. Because if we lose that contractor, he's not going to come back till next year.
And we think, also just to chime in, we certainly think that there's a need for this housing in this community. And we went through this long approval process, which came out with a great project. And we'd like to get the housing, the construction for that housing started. And I think that's, the other reason is let's get started on this housing that's needed.
Dave?
Dave Barton here. So Paul and I have asked, John, do you have a sense of when the PRD, if the PRD application is coming to the town board?
Yep, it should be pretty soon. We had an internal meeting a few weeks ago.
Great.
We made some revisions based upon the committee's recommendation.
Great.
Specifically with respect to the affordable housing. I think that was the only area where we were seeking a waiver or at least leaving it up to the town. And it seemed like the committee's recommendation was to provide affordable housing. So adding, so with the affordable housing, the engineer had to kind of go through the site again and kind of re-engineer things. Also, I think the footprint of some of the cottages is actually a little smaller than we had originally proposed. So that also the engineer had to kind of go back and kind of re-engineer things. So I think we're looking at in early May We kind of like to get the site plan signed for the ALS before we submit the PRD.
Sure.
And get the subdivision map
Sure.
filed.
That's
because I think
good.
Sequencing, that kind of makes sense. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And we're hoping to have the subdivision map filed and signed and the site plan filed and signed, you know, in mid to early May. So our goal is to kind of sequence it that way. And then once that's completed, then submit the PRD application, the official formal PRD application to the town board.
All right, so I gotta ask, Paul, what kind of risk of a building getting built without the traffic signal completion are we risking doing this, or are we?
We're not asking to build the building.
Just don't give them a CO, right?
No, but we're not gonna build a building.
We're not asking to build the building.
Once the site plan gets signed, isn't that basically saying they can apply for a building permit?
I believe with the new wording, he's gonna be putting in those conditions, he wouldn't be able.
Okay, so you're gonna write something that's.
That's why I was saying that we just want to get everybody on the same page to understand it, if I'm understanding it correctly too, right?
Yeah, a building permit will not be issued until New York State DOT approval, final approval is granted.
Right.
It's just a move on the utilities.
How long are we, Kelly, how long are we waiting for approval from DOT to go down the right way? Will it be this year or everything will stop for the winter?
Yeah, no, Ken Borstead is going to be submitting the application next week for the utility work, and their office thinks between 3 and 4 weeks we'll have a permit for the utility right-of-way work. And, you know, Franco, you know, it's going to take us quite a while to order this pipe. And so I think the hope is that if we can receive our approval to start the utility work, then we can start the submittals and the shops and get the concrete structures on site, get DOT. You know, there's a lot of work that has to occur before we can put a shovel in the ground. But at least if we know that we're able to proceed, we can start ordering materials. And as you know, the utility work is probably a good 2 to 3 months of work. And by then, you know, hopefully we have DOT approval. We're advancing the PRRD, and then we can seek our building permit, you know, notwithstanding the review of this board, the building permit for the upper building. But we are just trying to keep moving forward.
Everyone's clear on what it is we're doing, or what we think we're gonna do? Okay? Concerns?
Okay. Yep.
Anyone else?
My only concern was whether any of this impacts all the public hearings we had. Whether, I know we got a letter or an email yesterday.
Yes,
Saying that they had concerns about it.
yeah. And I had a few people call me on that, just so you know, and so the board knows, they called me on it, and I said, as far as we were concerned, based on the conversation that we had last month, we had no inclination of letting any building going on there until DOT was approved. Not conceptual, but the actual final approval.
Right.
So we don't want to put the town into any predicament that we wouldn't be able to explain, or, you know, set a
Also,
precedent.
I think it would be helpful if we had a plan, a map to refer to in the resolution. In other words, in your conditional, you refer to the soil remediation plan as being what you were allowing them to do. I think it would be helpful with this as
Sal,
associated plan.
to speak in the mic better.
Yeah, so I think that this resolution would be better if it had an associated plan sheet with it also.
Sure, we have we actually have a plan set that is the utility permit set, and it's the set that's going to DOT. And it's only fair that you have that same set. It hasn't deviated from the plans that were approved by this board, but we'll put together one set that is the utility permit set so that you have that.
Yeah, you're not gonna penetrate the walls of the building, you're gonna stop someplace.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So we'll get that over to you. If we don't get it to you tomorrow, we'll have it over to you on Monday. So we'll circulate it to the through Dave and Paul.
Okay, thank you.
Larry, anything? Bill?
Just my only observation is.
Can you give them a mic first? Don't mind.
This is, Michael has this site daily, and what I can see, they don't want to lose this contract.
Right.
He's doing a beautiful job, everything looks neat and clean and being done in an amazing fashion, so.
Everything clean. Anyone else? I'm good. I'm good. So we'll see you next week. See you next
Thanks,
week.
John.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thanks,
night,
guys.
everyone.
Anyone else want to discuss while we're all here?
She does a nice presentation.
A couple of things we talked about over the last couple of weeks were, last month, cannabis dispensary, projects that maybe could come forth to, our community. I don't know if there's any further we've done on those days, nothing,
I've been a little busy.
so have I. And the other one was the, short-term leasing, I believe.
I haven't done anything with that either.
All right, I do have a little bit more that I'll give back to the, I'll send them out this week from the county planning board. I saw how a couple other towns have done them, and they had a couple things in there that I would think we should consider, at least for our town. All right?
On canvas, farms, got one going in.
Yep.
Herbs,
Yeah.
Building department, no, I'm just kidding.
that's building.
You're gonna go to trouble there.
It's a nice corner office, lots of light.
Hey, Dave.
Oh, no.
Now he wants to talk, huh?
So
Dave
cannabis
Hart-
came on and Paul wants to talk. Hi, Paul.
Hey, no, sorry. Dave, did you guys just mention the package plant prohibition?
No.
And yeah, because did the town board want the planning board to provide some comments on that potentially this?
Yes, and I'll get that to them this week. For next
Yeah.
week. So yes, you are correct.
Yeah, take a look at that, because what the proposed local law would do at this point, which would be to ban private package plants from being used to serve large residential developments or multiple commercial or industrial users. And so that's something that the town board is looking at right now. And they definitely wanted to get input from the planning board on that.
Now, Paul, when you say package plants, you're talking just sewer right now, right? But it might expand to water also?
Just for sewage at this point, yes. And primarily surface water discharges. So those are the types of facilities that are aeration plants or spit off the list, Christian. They're those sorts of facilities that a residential subdivision might use for multiple users, or that if a bunch of industrial uses wanted to come together and have a package plant, they would have that. They're run by a third-party entity, which is a transportation corporation, or in the case of a residential subdivision, potentially by a homeowners association. And so the town.
Sorry, that may depend upon the requirements of the health department. I'm not sure what Ulster County requires, but I know in Dutchess County, where I've done the majority of my work, they are very, very loath to accept HOAs running sewage treatment plants, because there's a number of problems associated with those. They prefer to get a third party, qualified vendor to go in there and take over, or the best situation is to have the municipality go and take over those. But there's
Right.
a whole host of issues with that, where instead of one central place to treat all your sewage, now you have a bunch of little outfalls dotting the town or the county, and there's just a lot of issues with that are easier to avoid.
That is what we're
So
trying to do.
I'm sorry?
I said that's what the town is trying to avoid.
That's right, exactly. The town board is concerned about the potential that the third-party operator may go away, and then the town would get stuck with the long-term maintenance. And so it's a valid concern, and they believe that one way to sort of force the issue is to prohibit those sorts of plants. That's the way to avoid it. And, you know, where you can have sewer extensions, and the use of public infrastructure, that's the better way.
I agree.
So do I.
So we'll have that, we'll get that to you guys so that you can comment on that at next week's meeting if you'd like.
And also the, just to keep you guys updated, the adaptive reuse law went into effect, or at least we.
It was passed, it needs to be filed with Secretary of State. Yep.
Right, now it's gotta go further. So, but the town has passed it. I think it's 3-2 vote, I believe. 3-1.
3-1.
One abstained. Couldn't understand why anybody would abstain.
Oh.
Don't understand it.
Dave, on the package plant stuff, town board meets next Wednesday, correct?
Wednesday afternoon.
The Wednesday after next, all right, so they'll have. our
You'll meet
comments.
before, yeah.
Okay, so they'll have our comments. for that board meeting.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Hmm?
Yes,
That's right. We just, nope, I just said I would send it to you all.
Excuse me, Paul, but if you have any letters or any correspondence from the town board regarding this, if you could just share that with myself and Andy, just so we're kind of, you know, in the loop on it. And Andy may be aware of it at the town board level. I'm personally
Yeah.
not. I just kind of help out with the planning board here. But if you have any background information on this, that would be helpful.
Great.
Right, thank you.
Anything else? No? Motion to adjourn?
motion. Second.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Dave, can I take this for water sewer?
You can take it and wrap it up and heat your house with it. I don't care. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
You can keep it if you like. It's a gift. Okay.
Yeah.